Today, I have a very special guest. He is a legend in professional wrestling. He is a former Intercontinental Champion, WWE Tag Team Champion. He always gets his man, Mr. Jacques Rougeau. You may remember him as the Mountie. How are you, sir?
Well, Brian, I'm doing pretty good. So let's put something straight. My name is Rougeau.
Rougeau. Yeah, I know I was going to mess that up. I apologize.
That's okay. Just for the fans that are listening, they're going to want them to think it's the same guy, you know?
I apologize.
No, don't apologize. I get a lot worse.
I'm doing good. How are you, sir?
Doing good. Well, you can see I'm in Florida. The palm trees behind me. I'm in great shape. Working out every day. Getting ready for a big Royal Rumble this spring in Quebec. So life is good. Life is good. Thanks.
Good. What made you want to get into professional wrestling? How did all of that journey begin for you? And what age did you know that this was something you were going to pursue?
Well, you know, we're 4 generations of wrestlers in my family. Mm-hmm. My great uncle, my father, my uncle, my brother. So I was born into the world of wrestling. So, you know, when I was in younger days, I remember my father was doing promotions in Quebec, and all the guys like Abdullah the Butcher and Joe LeDuc and those guys used to wrestle my dad, and they used to come over to my house to talk the night before about what's going to happen the next night. And I used to be around all those wrestlers, and many of the guys would come around the pool during the day and talk with my dad. And so I was brought up. That's the only thing I saw in my life. And next thing you know, I was imitating them when they weren't there. And 6, 7, 8 years old, I was walking with a sheet on my head, being Abdullah the Butcher and the Sheik, and I grew a talent for it and a passion for it, and so that was my life after that.
When did you decide that? At what age did you decide that you were going to go for this full time?
Well, you know, I think it's more like the people decided it for me, because when I was 8, 9, 10 years old, I was imitating the guys so good that everybody that would see me imitate people, they'd say, "Hey, man, are you going to be a wrestler like your dad? Are you going to be a wrestler like your dad?" So eventually, and I loved the starlight, the stardom, and I loved all that. The attention was one of my best friends, and so I think the people brought me into it actually eventually. So, but at the age of 13, I started working out in the gym. And that's one thing I didn't want to do. I liked the fame and the limelight and all that, but I didn't like to go to the gym. It was like I was too lazy, I guess. And then finally, my father told me, "Hey, you want to be a wrestler? You got to go to the gym." And so I started going at the age of 13, and now I'm 65, so it's been 52 years I've been working out now.
Was there anything that was harder for you, or that you thought would be easier getting into professional wrestling?
No, it came pretty easy, to be honest with you. You even have to put the brakes there, because I was always ready to go one step ahead of my time, and everything was coming along so fast, and I had a talent for it in showbiz, and I was very outgoing, spoken, and I never knew what the word shy meant. So, you know, it was like, so everything came really easy in wrestling. The thing that I found very hard when I first started, my first years, was the traveling. Going and leaving my home and leaving my friends, and going to Calgary was fun for Stu Hart for the first couple of years, but after that I went to Mexico, and that wasn't so fun, because, you know, I didn't speak Spanish, and where I was based in Mexico City, they didn't speak English or French. So it was like, so that was rough, riding with the boys in the bus and not speaking any language. And when your name would pop up once in a while from somebody, one of the boys talking in the bus, you always think he was talking bad about you. You know, I had that feeling that, oh, you know, he's probably laughing at me. That was rough, traveling in different countries. And but when I got to the States, you know, and I got settled in the States, that was really fun. In 1978, I was wrestling for Nick Goulas, and then Tennessee and other territories. I went to all the small territories, and Kansas City, and then Florida, and then I ended up in Atlanta, Georgia, working for Ole Anderson, and he was the booker then, and working with guys like Ric Flair and Dusty Rhodes and Tommy Rich and all those guys, and it was really fun, because English came naturally to me. My mother was English, so my father was French, and my mother was English, so I was bilingual. So when I came to the States, it was really fun. Yeah.
When do you feel like you first started getting your name out there and were really getting momentum behind you?
I would say on TBS, when I got on TBS, because TBS was the only promotion in the States that their TV station was not only seen in their own state, like TBS was seen across the country, from
Hmm.
Los Angeles to Boston. TBS was there. So I was wrestling under the name of Jerry Roberts. I changed my name because I was the biggest jobber they ever had. Like I was getting beat by everybody. The only person that didn't beat me was the referee. And so it was like, so I changed my name. I was using Jerry Roberts, and but I was starting to get in some letters and some calls like, hey man, Jerry, when you finished in Atlanta, you want to come work for us, or you want to come work for us? And they really loved the way I was working. I was
Hmm.
good looking then. I had hair. I was young. I was athletic, and so I think that's where my name started getting out there, and then my biggest breaks came with. I would say Robert Fuller in Pensacola, where I stepped from junior titles to heavyweight title, wrestling against Joe LeDuc for the main event, and putting 8,000 people in Dothan, Alabama's arena, and starting to draw, like feeling, and then and between all these small territories that I did, I always went back every 6 months or so back home in Montreal, and every time I came back, well, I had a better repertoire. I'd learned some stuff from different boys, so then I'd bring it home to Montreal and the fans. So I grew really good on the fans. So in the early '80s, I'd been wrestling for 6, 7 years,
Hmm.
and so I started in '77. So in '83, '84, I'd been 5, 6 years in the business, picking up moves and different things from different countries, and contrary to all the local talent that was always wrestling in Montreal, that always performed the same kind of match, same kind of routine, just different opponents. I was coming in with some new moves, new high flying moves, and so I became a big attraction at home and a drawing card. And yeah, that was I can't remember what you asked me, but anyway, I got carried away here.
No, but what a way to think ahead and want to incorporate different styles and different ways to do things and not just be, punching the clock and do this move, this, and this. But that was very thoughtful of you to want to learn all these different styles
I, I
and
think I think it's
grow.
a question. I think it's a question of wanting to move ahead, to, to,
Hmm.
to be better. And if you want to go to the top, you got to be better. And the one thing about those things that I was stealing all these moves from everybody everywhere else, I had no heat for it because they weren't watching Montreal wrestling, so they didn't
Hmm.
know I was stealing their things. And so when I'd come home, I'd really outshine, and it was fun. It was a good time for me. Those 83, 84, 85 in Montreal. There, we teamed up, Raymond and I, and
Hmm.
the Rougeau Brothers, and we were hot stuff. Like my brother Raymond's always been a great wrestler, a great technical wrestler. Uh, and me being a high flyer, him technical, matched together in the ring. It was just, and we knew each other, like, we didn't have to say nothing. When we were in tag matches, I knew exactly where Raymond was. I knew exactly how he was thinking. I knew exactly what the
Hmm.
next move he wanted to. I'd do a move with him, and I knew what he was thinking for the next move before he even said it, because we'd worked so much together. And
Hmm.
when you have that complicity, it makes it fun.
That's I feel like that's a lost art today.
You know what, Brian? I'm going to tell you something. I'm probably going to knock you off your feet here, but I had a falling out with Vince 30 years ago,
Hmm.
something like that, 35 years ago. And I never watched one show of wrestling since then. I don't know who the wrestlers are. I've never watched WWF. I've never watched AEW. I've never
Hmm.
watched TNA. I never watched. I know that from my wrestling school at home and from my shows that I was doing, but I would never watch the shows because every time I turned the TV on and I'd see those guys, I was I was scarred, like because
Hmm.
we had a falling out, me and Vince. It was more like a burning feeling I had, like some hatred and some
Hmm.
some revenge so I turned the TV off. I wouldn't want to watch. And so if you start talking smart about wrestling today about the boys, you're gonna lose me because I don't know any of the talent. I know a couple from, of course, names that I've seen in the theaters, like
Hmm.
that do movies and stuff, and some of the guys that wrestled with me that were still there, man, a couple of years after. Kevin Owen, that's the guy. I taught him how to wrestle from 14 to 18 years old. He was in my school for 4 years, so I know him. I also know Sami Zayn because he's from Montreal. So you hear things like that, but I don't know. I never met the era of the Samoans that came in, the Clicks and all that. I don't know them. Hardy Boys is the name that came to mind, that I heard. So I don't know them. I'd see them on the street and I couldn't even recognize them. So the funniest thing about that, I'll tell you what the funniest thing is. I go in Comic Cons today. I go in a lot of Comic Cons, and when I get there, it's so funny because a lot of the wrestlers, they come up to me and they say, "Hey, Mr. Rougeau, it's really nice meeting you. I followed you when I was young." And I'd say, "Oh, well, thank you very much. That's very nice." And I'd shake his hand. And when he turned around, I'd ask the guy who's taking care of me with the picture, like, "Who's that guy?" And then the guy would look at me like, "Who's that guy?" Like, what planet do you live on? Like, and it's like, so that's the funny thing that happens in the Comic Cons, though. And then most of the time I run back to the person and I tell them, "Hey, I want to apologize, for before because I didn't know you." But then I explain them why. I haven't watched wrestling, so I tell my story every time because I don't want to lose respect for them. But that's the way it is.
How did you get the attention of the WWF back then? What made you guys go there?
It's Pat Patterson that just Pat Patterson. He knew me. He'd worked with me in Montreal, and he liked me as a talent, and probably something else too. No, just kidding. But he liked me a lot. Anyway, and all that to say that he when I was in different territories, I was making some noises. Like, all between promoters, believe it or not, they talk to each other, like to switch talents. Like, I remember the promoter in Detroit would talk with the promoter in Florida, say, "Hey, listen, do you have a guy that you're almost finished with that I could switch with you for, and my name was circulating a lot. And like I said, when I got to TBS, that was like, I was having extraordinary matches, but being the biggest jobber on the planet, but with a different name. So starting there, I think talent speaks for itself. I think that Robert Fuller saw that, and in Kansas City, Bob Geigel and Bob Brown and Pat O'Connor, they were the owners at the time, Mid-South Wrestling, and they took me in, and it didn't take me a month. I was tag team champions over there with Butch Reed. Butch Reed, who I don't know, you probably know Butch Reed, right?
I know who Butch Reed is.
So yes. we were the Salt and Pepper team. And so we hit it off good because he was a little high flyer too, and then it looked good, and so starting from there, the championship starts coming, and when you start having those titles and you start drawing money, I went to Memphis, I drew quite a lot of money with Jerry Lawler and Terry Taylor and Dutch Mantel. And when we did a lot of storylines where I turned heel there for the first time in my life. People think I turned heel in WWF for the first time, but it's in Memphis that I turned heel on Terry Taylor. Not for a long term, for a couple of months, but it worked. I came in with a big boom box on my shoulder, and that's so funny, that story. It's because I thought so much of myself at the time, and I was telling Lawler, I was traveling with him in the car one night, and I remember Cornette was there and Lawler was there in the car. And I said, "Hey, Jerry," I said, how come I don't have any music going to the ring? And then Cornette said, "Oh, well, it's only the main eventers that have music, only the main event." And so I said, "Oh, yeah, okay." So I came to the next TV tapings. I bought a big boombox, the big ones, and I had it on my shoulder, and I came out with the music "Dirty Laundry," bum, 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 and I came and it was such a big hit. And then they let me keep my music, so I was very original and stuff like that. But I was always walking a fine line when what was I allowed to do and not allowed to do, but I was doing it well. So that worked, and so yeah, I think my name was circulating out there. And when WWF first made their first show in Montreal, they were competing with Dino Bravo and Ricky Martel's organization. They were trying to take over the territory. Well, I wasn't working with them. I was in Pensacola, and Pat Patterson called me, and he said, "Jacques, we're doing a big show in Montreal. We have all the superstars in WWF are coming for the first time, and we'd like to put you on main event in Montreal against Samu." And I said, "And we'll have a big win for you in your hometown." And I said, "Okay, I'm doing it." And I wasn't under contract with Dino. I wasn't hitting it off with Dino either, because me and Dino were the two big baby faces in Montreal, but he owned the business. So when you own the business, you always put yourself in a better position, and I didn't like that. I was like envious, and I was saying, hey, like, so there was a competition between me and him. So at one point I left because I wasn't happy. And that time Pat Patterson heard that I left, that I wasn't happy. He went and grabbed me and he says, come back to Montreal. And so the first time they ever laid eyes on me was on that show in Montreal. And then after that, for about a year, and then right after that, Dino called me the next day, like, he said, Jacques, he said, I'm going to give you the belt. I'm going to give you whatever you want, give you this, give you that, give you this. I said, okay. So I came back in the territory, and then I was very, very happy. But in that time, Pat Patterson and Vince kept calling me, like, hey, we want to give you a big break. We'd like to put you tag team with Rick Martel. Like, going to put you in the tag team with Martel. And I was happy where I was now. I had my boat on St. Lawrence River. I was water skiing every day. I had the chicks. The life was good, I didn't want to, and I knew that place was a zoo. Like, I'd heard the stories in the WWF, like, man, this is a zoo. Get ready, that. So I was happy where I was. And then finally, after a year of Pat calling me and Vince calling me, and then I said, okay. I said, tell Vince I'll come in, but at two conditions. The first condition is I want so much money. And the second one is I want to come in with my brother as tag team. So they said, okay, you got it. So boom. So then they signed Raymond and I. We met them at the office, and then we were in Australia. A couple of months later, we started in Australia against Luke and Butch, the Bushwhackers, with different names. They were different names at the time.
The Sheepherders?
Yeah, Sheepherders. Yeah.
Is there any particular moments during that early run that mean more to you than others, teaming with your brother in the WWF?
Say that again.
Is there any moments that, for you in particular, mean more to you in those early years in WWF, teaming with your brother?
Working, like I said, with Joe LeDuc in Pensacola, in my young age, being main event, that was fun. And working with Terry Taylor as tag team, and in Memphis, and making it up championship, and in Kansas City being champion, and going to Atlanta and working with Ric Flair, on TBS, and then having a 6-minute match where I beat up Rick for about 5 minutes, and then he takes the win on me, makes me look like $1 million. A lot of things happened in my career that were fun. The biggest feud I ever had in wrestling was against the Garvin brothers in Montreal, 1985. If you go on YouTube, you could go the Rougeau Brothers against the Garvin brothers, Jimmy and Ronnie Garvin. You're going to see two of the best matches that wrestling has ever put together. The first one was the massacre when they jumped us before the match with Precious as their manager. They beat the living hell out of us, and even my dad. They put my dad on a stretcher. And then we came back for the Saint Jean-Baptiste massacre on the 24th of June. And that match, you better tie yourself up in a chair, because you're going to see a match incredible. So if you want to go on YouTube, go watch the Rougeau brothers against the Garvin brothers in Montreal, part 1 and part 2. That's the biggest iconic match, tag team, biggest feud in Quebec has ever had, one of the biggest feuds. And so I'd say I take a lot of pride in it.
How about your run in WWF teaming with your brother? Is there any moments that stand out more than others?
Oh, many. I know we were there for 4 years. We were 2 years as baby faces and 2 years as heels. And it was like I could go on to the SummerSlam match we had with the Bulldogs, the 20-minute Broadway and at the Madison Square Garden. That was just an awesome match. I remember the ones with the Rockers, the marathon matches, doing 1-hour matches, and the one who wins the most falls gets the win. And in Madison Square Garden, again, we played a joke on Vince. The Rockers were winning everywhere we'd go, like 6-5, 6-5. When we got at the Gardens, about at the 59 minutes or so, we stole the pin on Sean and made it 6-6. And Vince wanted them to win, so we went 60 minutes Broadway, and it was at the Gardens, and then I took the microphone on the floor. He had no idea what was going on. We played a rib on him, and I took the microphone on the floor and I said, "Hey, if you think that we're gonna stay here and settle for a draw, well, you're wrong. We're going overtime, baby." And then we went another 12 minutes, so we went like 72 minutes in the Gardens, but action packed, and having the people on their feet. Those were great matches. Big Boss Man match, of course, at the jailhouse match when I spend the night in jail. That's iconic. Everywhere I go, people just remind me of that. Bret Hart, when me and Jimmy Hart came to the ring, and and I threw the pail of water on him, and I shocked him with my shock stick, and then I worked with him for a big angle then, and there was an Undertaker match I had with Undertaker where I gave him 3 pile drivers in a row in the match, and it was the first time he took a pile driver from anybody, and he was killing everybody, and when he came in the ring with me, I didn't know that Mark it was a mark of me. Like, he came after me, but he loved my business, everything I did in the business. So when I got in the dressing room and I started putting the match with him, I said, would you mind if I gave you a pile driver? I said, you trust me enough. He said, Jacques, I trust you. I said, okay. So I said, I'm going to give you 3. I said, I'm going to give you the first one, you're going to set up. I'll give you the second one, you're going to set up. And the third one, you're going to set up halfway, and then you're going to fall back down. And then I'm going to get up and I'm going to take the microphone and I'm going to say, I am the Mountie. And then you're going to raise up real fast. I'll turn around, you tombstone my ass. Boom. And he loved it. And you could, on Daily Motion, you could go watch that match if you go check that out. So I had a lot of matches. I had great matches. I'm thinking also with Tito Santana. I had WrestleMania 8 with Tito Santana. It was awesome. But in house show matches too. Had a lot with the Anvil and Brett. Had a lot of great matches with Marty and like I said, Marty and Sean. I don't understand why Marty's not in the Hall of Fame. Marty Jannetty reminds me of Bobby Eaton. I don't know if you're too young to know a guy called Bobby Eaton, but Bobby Eaton was, in the smaller territories. I worked with him. It was like the best worker that was. Expression, throwing his punches, taking bumps, just everything he did was so we were lucky. We were working in an era where a lot of characters were there, like Hacksaw, Coco Beware, and different characters. They all had their own Kamala, and they all had their different George Animal Steel, eating the turnbuckles, and we had them all. But what we had also was the greatest wrestling talent. Not a bodybuilding contest, not a high diving contest, or I'm talking about wrestling. Storytellers, and so we were in the greatest era. So there was so many good workers. I'm thinking of the Killer Bees. What an underestimated team. Because we'd go in there and have a babyface match, and at the end turn on them or something, or just have a rugged babyface match where you could feel it build, like who's gonna crack first, like who's gonna turn, and we could do that with 18,000 people and start a match and then build. We knew what it was to start a match here and finish here. It was always going up and up and up and up, and so you had all these great talent. So it would be unjust for me to name the wrestlers that I had great matches with. I was there for like 10 years, so there was so much talent that I had a chance, that I was lucky to work with.
How did the Mountie come to be, and were you ready to be a single star at that time?
I guess, Vince called me up, and I'd been off for like almost a year. I was back home and raising my kid, and then just being a dad at home, and doing a couple of shows in Puerto Rico, working Abdullah, or a couple of independent shows here and there, but mostly at home. And he came up. I got the call that he wanted me to portray a Royal Canadian Mounted Police, and I kind of liked the idea. I was tired of changing diapers at home. I was saying like, hey, this may be a good time for me to hit the road. But then again, I told him the 2 conditions. I said, the first condition, I said, I want to have Jimmy Hart as my manager. I will not go if Jimmy Hart's not my manager. He's the greatest manager of all times for so many reasons. And the second one is I want to bring a cattle prod. I want to bring a shock stick, electric shock stick. And he says, okay. So that worked, and that really worked. That character really worked. And Big Boss Man, one of the greatest talents for a big size guy like that, just so light on his feet, and the guy that always takes care of his opponent, and he was so good. We had so much fun, me and Boss Man, around the globe, night after night. 18, 20,000 people, and just tearing the place up. Me and him, and the life was good then.
How does it feel that that's one of the most iconic characters for a lot of people for many generations?
I feel really great because, when I go in Comic Cons, I'm always busy. That's flattering. And I have so much fun too in Comic Cons when I go. I think I'm one of the guys that have the most fun. I don't want to brag, but I'm just saying I have so much fun because I come in with my Mountie suit, with my glasses, my hat, my boots, my pants. I come in with so with my hat, you don't see I don't have any more hair. See, I look like the Mountie still. Like I shave my beard. I come in really like I look like I used to. And when the people come up and for a picture beside me, I always ask them. I said, "You want a straight picture or a funny picture?" And they look at me like what do you mean? I said, well, let's do a funny one. Tell me if you like it. So I get the guy beside me. I grab him by the hair. I jerk his head back up like this. And then I put my stick right in his face like this. And then I tell the guy, I grab his arm. I said, put your arm up like this in the air like this. And then I say, now show your face like you're afraid. Look at my, and then he looks at me and said, no, look at the stick. Look at the stick. So he looks at the stick. He's like this. And then I'm beside him like this. So I bring him back in time. I bring him back like he was watching TV and he was seeing me doing it to a wrestler, but I'm doing it to him. And then I always tell the person, I say, look at the picture. And then he looks at the picture. I said, zoom close, our facial expression. See what we did? And then they look at it and they have so much fun. They're like, oh, I never had one person say, oh, no, I don't like it. Not one in years. So it's like they really, really like that thing that I do with them. And then once in a while, one's going to say, can I have a straight picture too? I say, yeah, sure. Then I look at like But most of the people like that funny picture. And the funniest, and what's fun about that, what I love about that is when we're in line in Comic-Cons, like many times there's like, the guys are not too far from each other. And the guys are like 150 feet from me. And contrary to the other guys that are in sweatsuits or, or whatever, they see and I never sit down. In a Comic-Con, I'm always standing up. If I'm there for 4 hours, I never sit down. I'm always standing up. So people from the other lines, they look over and they see me there with my hat, my glasses, and they're pointing me out. Hey, the Mountie's over there. Hey, the Mountie's over there. So the promoters love it. The people that hire me. So I'm having so much fun in Comic-Cons. Yeah.
Is there any particular Mountie moments that you enjoyed doing more than others, or like that a lot of people bring up to you constantly?
Of course, and even the fabulous Rougeau Brothers. Great times that I have usually in Comic-Cons is people ask me to sing my song. Like, my theme songs. Like, we don't like heavy metal. We don't like rock and roll. All we like to listen to is Barry Manilow. Hey, we're all American. And then they want me to sing that. Or, I'm the Mountie. And I got my suit on and I'm handsome, I'm brave, and I'm strong. And people, that's a fun thing I like to do because I can still sing the song pretty accurately. And then, so it brings them back. The whole idea is to bring the fans back down memory lane. And when you do that, people, they share more. I love to talk with the fans when they come to see me and share those moments. And so when they leave me, they had a great time. So, so that's fun.
How did the Quebecers come to be?
Quebecers Inc. is actually I took another sabbatic year after the Mountie, and I was wrestling in Puerto Rico. And then Carl Ouellet came to see me on the beach. He was doing the opening match, and he'd been trying to be booked for 10 years. He was sending videos and stuff to WWF and them, and he never got return call. So when I was there on the beach, he came to see me that day, and he said, "Hey, Mr. Rougeau," he says, "my name is Carl Ouellet," but he was speaking French. And I said, "Hey, you speak French?" I started speaking with him, and he said, the only thing he asked me, he says, "You mind, please, sir, watch my match tonight?" And I said, "Sure." So I watched his match, and after his match, he came to see me, and he said, "Did you have a chance to watch my match?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "I was very impressed with it." I said, "I'm going to make a call to Vince for you." And he says, No. I said, "Yeah, I'm going to make a call to Vince for you." He says, I don't believe you. Next thing you know, a year later, the first match he had, he became tag team champions of the world as the Quebecers. And I remember calling him back like a couple of weeks after. I said, "Hey," I said, you're going to WWF and you're coming with me. And I said, "We're going in as a team." And then, so that's when he had his break. He started then, and things started happening for him.
How was your run with him in WWF? Do you feel like there was any particular matches that stand out more than others?
Well, yeah, 3 tag team title matches, and style completely different than anybody else. Double suplexing, Men on a Mission mom, Mabel in a match, 640 pounds. First time Mabel left his feet, and a double suplex, and WrestleMania 10, and so yeah, I had a lot of great matches with also with Billy Gunn and Bart Gunn, the Smoking Guns, had some great feuds with them, and then the Samoans and Marty Jannetty and 1-2-3 Kid, and we had a lot of. See, the thing was then again with all these guys, there was guys that knew how to work. And I've always, my best talent has come out in the ring when I was able to work with a guy who understood that less is more. Like, you go in the ring, and I don't like when you go in the ring with a guy where I give a drop kick to the guy, and the guy who received the drop kick is standing up before I am. Like, if you get a drop kick in your face, stay down, sell it, hurt a bit. Let me go to the ring. Let me have that interaction with the crowd and get them going, and so less is more, and many times. And when you work with guys like that, like Tito and guys like that, Coco Beware, guys that didn't mind to eat the ground and just let me get my heat verbally, and I'll walk around and do my stuff. And then when they'd kick my butt at the end, I'd be flying all over the place for them. Boom, boom, boom. So you create some emotions for the people, which I was told, I haven't watched, but I was told they're lacking a little bit in the later years, where it's become more mechanical, more athletic, more fast paced, more moves, 1,000 moves. And so for me, when I had the chance to work with guys, even Big Boss Man, I had Big Boss Man selling on the ground like, and he'd be dead meat, and I'd pile drive me dead meat. And instead of covering him, I'd go get the microphone and I am the Mountie. And I'd come back to him. He's still lying down. He's still hurting. So everything was paced. People had time to connect more with the characters. And that's where I was at my best.
I know you said you had a falling out with Vince McMahon. How did WCW come to be? And do you have any memories from your...
Just simple, because we approached WCW. I had a lawyer in Montreal because I had heard that they were trying to come into Montreal, but Vince McMahon had the exclusivity in the building in Montreal. So I told them in WCW that I could change that. and they didn't believe it. I said, I'm telling you I could change it, because there's a law in Montreal that it's called les droits de la charte de la liberté du Québec, which means the charts of the liberty of a Quebecer, that there's no American that can come in Quebec and keep a Quebecer from renting a building because an American is renting it. So I broke the deal they had, but I told Bischoff, I said I was going to do it on one condition, that I work with Hogan. I said I wanted to work with Hogan. And what a deal I did there, man. Oh, I don't know if you know what happened, but
you wrestled your final match against Hogan, didn't you?
One of my final matches,
yes.
Yeah. And he put me over. He put. I'm the only Canadian there to pin Hulk Hogan, and I'm talking about a clean pin, 1, 2, 3 in the middle of the ring. You can go see it on YouTube, Jacques Rougeau versus Hulk Hogan. You'll see it, and that brought my notoriety up so high. And I had so much heat with other wrestlers. There were so many that wanted to. And Hulk always said no. But I was good friends with Hulk. Hulk really loved me. And for many reasons. But that people don't know. But he liked me a lot. And when he came to Montreal, because people always ask me during my career, why did he do it for you? And I always told the truth. I said, he did it because of the Rougeau name, the Rougeau family, what the Rougeaus have brought. He even did a video that he thought we should be in the Hall of Fame. He did a video himself, like saying, hey, the next, and he wanted us to be in the Hall of Fame. Absolutely. He did it also because of the Bulldog situation, because I stood up to bullying, and he was right in the middle of that. And nobody knows that, but he was always afraid that it was going to happen to him too. Like the Bulldogs never hit him, but he was always afraid it was going to happen. And when I stopped the reign of terror, then it was like, after that, it was like, man. And every time I'd meet him at different places, he'd always say, man, this is a stand-up guy, man. This is a stand. And he'd never tell me, but he'd always make it understood indirectly that he was referring to that. And we grew really close together. In the last few years, I was at his karaoke all the time. I went singing there in Clearwater, and so we were friends. And he did a lot of videos for me, for my stuff. And so Hulk, when he came to Montreal, he he put me over like it was the greatest thing. I think one of the greatest things in my career, and I'm so grateful for it. And so it's always in this business, it's always been like that. Sometimes it's not what you could do, but it's who you know. It's being at the right place, right place at the right time. But it's also not what you could do; it's who you know. And the living proof of that is we're not in the Hall of Fame because, and I'll never understand that. I never will. I'm not being jealous. I'm not being envious because everybody that I meet, they're all saying the same thing. How come you're not in the Hall of Fame? The Mountie, the Copecras, fabulous Rougeau Brothers. Well, I could tell you because I'm not in Triple Eight's great big races, and I'm not in Vince's. That's his son-in-law. So there's a lot of heat there. But the truth of the matter is Coco Beware, the guy that I work with, he's there. Tito Santana, the guys that I work with, he was there. The Heart Foundation's the guy I work with, he's there. Shawn Michaels, the guy that I work with, he's there. Greg Lammer, Valentine, Beefcake, they're all in there. Everybody that I worked with, they're in there. So I'm saying to myself, there's one thing I understood in this business. Whether you're in a tag team match or in a singles match, if you're in a singles match, it takes 2 to dance. And when you're in a tag team match, it takes 4 to dance. And and if we're making these 20,000 people stand up on their feet night after night after night after night, I don't understand how come it's not happened yet. Well, I do, but I'm not. It's a matter of being friends, I guess, at the right place at the right time, or knowing the right people, being in the good grace of good people.
I just want to say thank you for what you've done for professional wrestling, sir, and what you continue to do, regardless of what other people may have their opinions on. You seem like a really nice, down-to-earth, positive person, and you've contributed a lot to professional wrestling. So for that, I thank you.
Well, I thank wrestling for what it's brought to me. And, all my life I have, and I'm still having now. Like I said, I'm jumping in the ring in the month of May, and the 30th of May in Gatineau, Quebec. I'm going in the Royal Rumble, and I'm not going in the Royal Rumble. I'm not making a bushwhacker loop there, just going in, yay, whoa. I'm going in there. I'm getting in shape. I'm going to be all over that ring. I'm going to go in there and perform. And I'm 65 years old, but 65 is only a number. And when you're in shape, 65 is just fine. So I'm going to go in there and I'm going to have a blast. I'm going to surprise a lot of people. I'll be coming out of my 3rd retirement match. I always laugh about that because, every time I retired, I swear to God, I wanted to retire. But there's something about wrestling that always wants to bring you back. I don't know how to say that.
Where can people reach out to you at?
Yeah, they could on Facebook is my best place. It's a public Facebook, so it's Jacques Rougeau. You'll see a picture of me and my girlfriend Natalie, and you could reach out to me there. If it's an email, you can make it to jrougeau@jacquesrougeau.ca. If you want to put it down in writing there when you put this together, this thing is Rougeau, JROUGEAU at Jacques, which is JACQUESROUGEAU.ca. People could write me. And I answer back all the time. I'm always there for the fans because I realize that if I am where I'm at today, it's because they were there for me.
Well, I just want to say thank you for taking a little bit of time out today to talk about your career. And thank you truly for everything that you've done, sir. It truly means a lot.
No, thank you very much. It was fun. I enjoyed this.
And if there's ever anything that I can do, please feel free to reach out.
Yeah, go call the Hall of Fame.
Yeah. I'll do my best, sir. You truly deserve to be there.
Take care, Brian.
You too.